Hello everyone. Welcome back to another chapter and another video of F1 Foundation in Business Technology here at KnS. I'm your tutor, Sir Asim Iqbal. For this video, we're going to be starting chapter number 2, the business environment. Okay, a very interesting chapter. A lot of things you guys might be able to relate to, and I hope that you guys had fun and you guys understood and enjoyed the last video that I made. And the questions that we did were all the past paper questions, and we are going to do the same in this chapter and every other chapter. Okay, so let's get started with the second chapter of F1, business environment. And as we know that the business environment is ever changing. Okay, like if you compare the industrial revolution in the 17th, 18th centuries and the technology that we have now, there's a world of a difference, right? And the environment is constantly changing, okay? And with the introduction of AI, artificial intelligence, it's changing at a very rapid pace, okay? I mean, I'm here in person teaching all this to you live, right? But there might be a time where all the teaching might be done by artificial intelligence, right? And it is happening, okay? It is happening. Robots and artificial intelligence is teaching people. Like if you want to learn anything, you can just go on YouTube and just type whatever you want, right? Like if you want guitar lessons, they're all available on YouTube, for example, right? So even teaching itself is changing and it's evolving. Okay, like you're like right now you might be in your office, at your home, sitting on your table, relaxing on your bed while watching this video, right? So the boundaries of teaching itself and even work itself has changed. Okay. Like if I'm here in my office right now, and if I'm teaching the same way I am to you guys, and I'll be teaching the same way to the people around me right now, so I'll be able to reach very few of you guys, right? But through this technology, I'm able to reach out to you from anywhere in the world, right? So this is a massive step towards technology and the changing environment, which affects not only business, but our personal lives as well. Right? So how is the business environment changing? We are seeing the concept of globalization. We see that the whole world has become a global village, right? And by the term global village, it means, a village is some place which is very small, but it's very connected as well. Like everybody knows everybody. Everybody knows what's going on, right? So with the introduction of social media and artificial intelligence and the internet, all these things have been revolutionized, I would say. Right? And everybody is getting closer together, and everybody is being aware of what's going around, like with themselves and in general, right? Okay. Technology, we just discussed about it. Mergers, it is something which will be coming later on, right? Changing customer values and behavior, because like if you compare the fashion trends from the 80s or the 90s, and it's quite different now, right? Like if you see the outfits people were wearing in the 80s, they're like very flashy, very colorful, and these days it's just like like it's still colorful, but not so much maybe, right? Okay. Increased scrutiny of businesses, which means that the security for business has to be increased. Okay, because the technology cannot be used just for good, it can be used for bad as well. Okay, your businesses can be hacked, your businesses can be their secrets could be leaked, right? So it's best that you use advanced measures of cybersecurity and malware protection in order to secure your business, right? Downsizing and outsourcing. Again, these concepts will be discussed later on, but as you might have guessed from these very words, you might have heard them yourself, like a company is downsizing or a business is outsourcing, right? Downsizing means the company is scaling its production down, right? It's scaling down its production, like it's going from a big company to a relatively smaller company, right? And outsourcing is something where you are you can say delegating some of your tasks. You are delegating some of your more mundane tasks or specialist tasks to the people who can do it better at a cheaper rate, right? The best example can be the call centers, right? Like you see most of the call centers all the businesses, they have their call centers in mostly Southeast Asia, right? Because they're able to afford cheap labor over here, and they are able to benefit from a wide pool of you can say experts, right? Because many people, they are trained in Southeast Asia to be called center, attendees. Okay, like it's the go-to job for anyone. Okay, like anyone can be trained in a matter of weeks, I would say, and these guys can offer these services in a very excellent manner. Okay. All right. And then you have your relationships with your stakeholders. A stakeholder is a concept that we discussed in great detail in the last chapter, right? So all of these things, guys, are part of your changing business environment. As far as the mergers are concerned, you see, there are different types of business agreements or business combinations. Okay, one of them is what we call mergers, and the other one is what we call takeovers. Okay, mergers are like two businesses who willingly come together. They willingly come together and they start a new venture, or they combine their resources, they combine their expertise, and they work for mutual benefit, right? Whereas the takeover, what happens is that a bigger company takes over the smaller company, and they just do whatever they want then, right? So a takeover is when you acquire like 51% of shares of another company, so that company is now under your control. You can just do whatever you want with it. Okay, like you can take that company in any direction you want. So that's the difference between a merger and a takeover. All right, let's move on. Okay, now obviously, if you're running a business, you are going to face some political changes, or like political influences, I would say, right? So how can politics affect a business? Well, you have to follow the law. Okay, politicians are the ones who form the law. So like political and legal is like part and parcel of the same thing. Okay, now it can be a good thing, it can be a bad thing, but that's the way it is, right? Okay, then the government can, and it does usually, what the government does is that it takes a stance on the types of goods and services being produced, right? Like for example, if you're producing good goods like medicine, or crops like wheat and barley and rice, the staple foods, all that kind of stuff, so the government will help you. Okay, the government will encourage you to do so. Okay, like it might provide you with the very low interest rates for your farm equipment, or your medicinal equipment, or it can give you subsidies, give you tax breaks, all that sort of stuff. But on the other hand, on the contrary, if you're producing like maybe cigarettes or cigars or alcohol or guns, stuff like that, which is dangerous to the public, so the government will take a much stricter stance on that, and the government is going to like impose heavier taxes. Like if you see, alcohol, cigarettes, they're pretty expensive, right? So the government, what it does is that it imposes additional taxes. It has a much higher regulation as compared to the other medicines and food and all that sort of stuff. Okay. Then what we have is the government's own policy, which we have what we call monetary and fiscal policy. It's a very detailed concept which will be coming much later on in the F1 syllabus, right? And all of these things, all of these points that you see in this particular table, that how in many different ways your own business is being impacted by legal factors, we can all see in this table that we have, right? Like how the criminal law and how company law, employment law, data protection law, all of these laws are there for our own benefit, for our own, you can say, convenience, and to keep us safe, right? Like for example, let's take the example of criminal law, right? In criminal law, if you are caught doing theft or insider dealing, you're bribing someone, you'll have to face the criminal court, right? Similarly, the company law clearly states, in every country there's their own company law, and in the company law they clearly state the duties of their directors, how to report your financial statements, okay, if you want to take over another business, how you should proceed, all that stuff, okay. And employment law, how much minimum wage you should pay, okay, redundancy, dismissal, maternity leaves, all right, equal opportunities for the men and women who are working in your company, okay. So there are laws for almost every aspect of your business, and that's how politics and the law affect your business. There's no changing it, right? Like, there's no escaping it, I would say. But these laws are being constantly changed, okay, mostly towards the benefit of businesses, and mostly I would say not just the businesses, but the laws are being made for mutual benefit, okay, because there's always some give and take, right? Okay, so this is a pretty simple table, right? And you guys go through it. It's quite simple. And as I said, that there's there's a lot of you can say points, and there are a lot of laws to protect the businesses, and the content of those laws are already provided in the table. Like we see the tax law at the very end, we have VAT, right? We have the income tax, we have corporation tax, which is paid by the companies, right? We have environmental laws, so you don't cause too much pollution without paying for it, so to speak, okay. The things that we have to keep in mind while we are marketing our products, okay, we don't have to appear like very inconsiderate, right? Because there are some advertisements out there. Like if you go on YouTube and you type banned advertisements, you'll see a lot of examples, okay. You'll see a lot of examples, and you might be able to see why those ads were banned, right? Data protection, okay, it has mostly to do with cybersecurity. It has mostly to do with basically your confidentiality, okay, because you see all the records that you have of your customers, the database you have of your customers, and all the files that you have of your employees, they contain sensitive data, okay. And if that data is leaked, then the hackers, they can manipulate that data, they can abuse that data, right? Health and safety, especially if you're working in a place which is hazardous, which is dangerous, like if you're working in a coal mine, or if your business is in the construction industry, okay. So these places are not very safe, okay. And you see all these guys, they have their oxygen masks, and they have their safety helmets, and they have their protective gear, right? If they're working at night, they have their those green vests on, those neon vests on, right? So all of these procedures have to be legally followed and provided by the business, right? So these are all the laws, and these are all the, you can say, legal factors affecting your business, right? Let's move on. Okay, again, we have some more of them. Like if you want to expand your company, like if you want to expand your business, or if you want to reduce or increase the production of your business, so how you can do so, and how should you go about it, right? The capacity expansion, the demand, right? How much demand is being regulated by the government, right? Or how much demand is available in the market you're operating in, right? The more the demand, the more you'll sell the goods, and ultimately the more taxes you're going to pay on your profits, right? Divestment and rationalization. Okay, now this is a, I would say, interesting point. Let's give it a read. The state takes many decisions regarding the selling off or closure of businesses, especially in areas such as defense. Now, as I said, there is a private sector and there's a public sector, okay? The private sector is a place where the common man can do business, okay? All the businesses, all the opportunities, all the, you can say, freedom which is provided to the common man in order to operate his business, right? But the public sector has certain industries, it has certain sectors which it cannot, delegate to the public, or it cannot privatize, right? Such as the defense industry, okay? Now, if the defense industry was privatized, it would be like a private army, or like a private, you can say, security firm, okay? Which it will be providing security to, like, few people as compared to the whole country. So that is something which the private sector cannot do efficiently, and the public sector or the government itself has to, regulate the army and all of the people and all the tanks and all that stuff in it. Okay. Now, emerging industries, the startups basically. So the startups are like like if the startups are very promising or if the startups are very unique, so the governments themselves can step in and they can help them out, right? The barriers of entry and competition. Now, these are some very, very interesting topics. Now, barriers to entry, which means like if I'm doing business, right? Like if I'm Levi's, right? I'm Levi's and I'm selling the best denim products in the market, right? Everybody knows me, everybody trusts me, everybody buys from me, okay? They want jeans, they want denim jackets, maybe they want some t-shirts, whatever they want, they come to me, right? But the government wants that more people should benefit from the same opportunities, right? The same people should benefit from the same, you can say, customer base that I have, okay? So the government is going to allow more and more people to come in. It's going to reduce the entry barriers, okay? By reducing the entry barriers, it means it's easier for new people, it's easier for startups to enter the market and compete with Levi's, right? Like you can say Stone Age, or maybe like Wranglers, right? Wranglers make some good jeans. So if Wranglers comes in, the Wranglers brand comes in and tries to compete with Levi's, it has every freedom to do so, right? But the government can also see that, people only prefer Levi's, so, it can put entry barriers that in certain countries, like let's say, for example, in Sri Lanka, right? In Sri Lanka, Levi's has the sole right to sell jeans, okay? Gap cannot come in, Wranglers cannot come in. We have imposed an entry barrier in Sri Lanka on denim production, okay? Only Levi's can produce their products in Sri Lanka and no other brand, right? So this is what we call a barrier to entry. And as far as competition is concerned, competition is like, you can say like, there are many forms of competition. We have perfect competition, we have imperfect competition. All of these things will be coming later on. But the government always encourages competition, okay? The government will always encourage competition in the private sector, okay? In the private sector, not in the public sector, right? Because, when you're competing with someone, you always want to get better, okay? Like, we see in the old-timey movies, right? Like we see in the old movies of the 90s or the early 2000s that, two guys like the same girl, right? They're in competition, okay? So they're trying to one-up each other. Like, I'm the better guy. No, I'm the better guy. So, the same applies to the companies, okay? Like we have these customers right in front of us, and Levi's and Wranglers, they're like, I'm the better brand. No, I'm the better brand. I'm offering this. I'm offering that. So, this allows the companies to better themselves in the process, okay? They allow themselves to be more efficient. They allow themselves to be more and more, productive and innovative, right? Offering better prices, offering better quality of products, right? So, they're like offering better prices, better variety of products, okay? So all of these things combined can give all of these companies a good edge, right? So the government will always want the companies to engage in healthy competition. Let's move on. But there are some businesses, guys, there are some businesses which are so big and they're so powerful and they're so influential that these businesses can influence the government, okay? Usually what we've been studying up till now, right, over here, right, and over here is the government was influencing the business, right? But some businesses are so powerful, they're so big, and they're so strong with very powerful connections all around the world that these businesses can influence the politicians, they can influence entire governments altogether, right? Such as the oil industry, okay? And these guys have been doing it for a very long time. Like since oil was discovered, companies like Shell and Exxon and Baiko, all of these companies, the oil giants, okay, these guys have been very, very powerful. I mean, forget Apple, forget Google and Microsoft. These guys are the ones running the show, okay? Because oil is the lifeblood of today's economy, okay? Take oil away from any country and you're done for, right? If you don't have oil, you don't have a lot of the products that you have right now, okay? You cannot work on your cars, okay? The cars won't run. You won't have any oil to, cook things in. And there are many, many petroleum products that you guys will not be able to use, okay? Some oil products are there in medicine, and there are some oil products in, almost every aspect involved, okay? All the machinery that you're operating in all the factories, they require oil, right? So take oil away, and your entire country will grind to a halt, okay? So the oil industry is very, very powerful, and it has the ability, the money, the power to influence governments. How can they do so? They can employ lobbyists. Lobbyists are kind of your marketers, okay? But they're very advanced form of marketers, okay? Like these guys, don't underestimate these guys. We have discussed that, when we were discussing the power and level of interest in the last chapter, they were in section B, okay? High interest but low power, okay? But don't underestimate these guys, because if you employ a lot of lobbyists, they can do wonders for you, okay? Then what these guys can do is, all the people running the government, all the people who are in the government, they can offer those people very lucrative leadership positions in their own company, okay? So if you have government people in your company, so then you have an indirect say in the government as well, right? So like if I'm the prime minister of my country, for example, right? If I'm the prime minister, but I'm also the CFO of Shell, right? So in a way, Shell has a say in how my country is being run, okay? And this is a very scary tool, to be honest with you guys. I mean, just imagine the ramifications of this, okay? And they try to influence public opinion through advertising. They can advertise using very advanced marketing techniques, using clever psychology to influence the people and to show the people that, we are the best company, we want all that's well for you. And I'm pretty sure you guys might have seen this in the movies as well, right? Okay, let's move on. Employment protection. Now, this is something which is really, really important, especially to all the people who are breadwinners of the house, right? It's very important for people, especially the ladies who go out and work. And it's not easy for anyone, okay? It's not easy for the guys, it's not easy for the girls. They have their own challenges. And if the governments and if the businesses can step in and offer them a helping hand, things can become a lot easier for them, okay? And just to do that, certain laws and certain practices were enabled. Let's see what they were. We have retirements. We have retirement and dismissal. Two different ways you can leave the company, okay? Retirement is when you have reached a certain age, or even if you want to take an early retirement, you can do so. But some companies, they want you to leave, right? Why do they want you to leave? In order to create new opportunities for the younger workers, okay? Like there's this guy who's like 65, 70 years old, and he's doing the same task, okay? And he might be doing a very good job. But since he's old now, he's not as efficient as he used to be, right? So they'll say, hey, listen, buddy, you've been here for like 30 years, 40 years. Let's give somebody else a chance. Okay, we are going to hire someone more efficient, someone younger, someone more, more effective than you. Okay, so in order to create promotion opportunities for younger workers, the old ones have to step aside, right? And as youngsters, I believe you guys might be able to relate to this one. Okay. Then we have an early retirement. Okay. Redundancy, we'll get to that in a minute. Redundancy alternative is early retirement. Like, hey, listen, the government will give you something which is called a golden handshake. Okay. A golden handshake is when the company says, hey, listen, we hate to say this, but you've been a really good part of our company, but we need to downsize. Maybe we don't need you anymore. So here's a bunch of money, and you can find a job somewhere else, right? So you can take an early retirement, or you can look for another job. The age structure of an organization may become unbalanced, and the cost of pension might rise because what's going to happen is, like, as long as you are employed and as long as you're working there, the cost of pensions for the business is going to increase, right? And the age structure will be imbalanced. Like, you have all these old people working in your company. You don't have any fresh ideas. You don't have any younger faces. The work is being done at a slower pace. So you're going to see that, hey, listen, we need to change things around here. Okay, we need to change things around here, and we need to get some fresh blood in. We need to get some younger people in, so we can change the whole age dynamic and get the business up and running in a better way. This does not mean that you fire all the old people, right? Most of them, I would say, have a lot of experience to offer, so you can offer them positions in advisory departments, or you can offer them as consultants, as NEDs, for example, right? But leave the actual work to the younger professionals, right? That's what some businesses go for. Then we have dismissal. Dismissal is when you let people go deliberately. Why? Either your contract is over, okay? Like, if I'm with KnS for 1 year, right? And I have a contract with KnS. If my employer or the KnS terminates my contract, it means I'm dismissed. I have to go home, okay? I cannot teach you guys F1 anymore, right? So either KnS terminates my contract, okay? I don't renew my contract with KnS, that will also be considered as dismissal in the UK, okay? All of these things are a part of UK law, not in any other country, okay? Or if I breach my contractual obligations, if I breach my contractual agreements and I resign, that is not a resignation, that's not redundancy, that is dismissal. Okay? Resignation by the employee where employer's conduct breaches the contract of employment. This is another example. Like, if I breach any contract, okay, I'll be dismissed. Okay? But this can also happen the other way around. If KnS breaches any terms of contract, okay, if the employer breaches any terms of the contract, then that can also be considered as a dismissal. All it takes is the breach. Okay? But if KnS or the contractor or the employer breaks the contract or breaches the contract, that would be termed as constructive dismissal. Okay? All right. One thing is we have is wrongful dismissal, and the other thing we have is redundancy. Now, what's the difference between these two? Guys, redundancy is what happens when through no fault of your own, you have to go. You have to leave the business. Like, the business is shutting down. In COVID, we saw all these people being made redundant, okay? They were not being dismissed. They were not being fired, okay? There was no age issue, but businesses were facing heavy losses. in my country and countries all across the world. I'm pretty sure you saw all this. People were panicking, businesses were panicking, and they were facing heavy losses. Since they could not sustain those losses, they could not afford to pay their workers, they had to let them go, right? So if the employee is not at fault, but still he has to go, either the business is shutting down, it's relocating, or the business does not need your services anymore, right? Like if I'm working in advertisement, okay, and they don't need an advertising department anymore, so I have to go, right? But it's not my fault, okay? So in that case, if I'm being let go from the job, it means I'm being made redundant, okay? But dismissal or wrongful dismissal is when you are being let go for very unfair reasons, okay? Like if I am being dismissed, on the basis of my looks, of my on the color of my skin, my religion, my cultural beliefs, my race, all of that stuff, if I'm being let go because of that, that's called unfair dismissal, and that's extremely insensitive, and it's very illegal, okay? If this is done in any country, then this is something which is very serious, and you can take the business to court, okay? Like you can sue them, you can file a case against them. On the other hand, we have wrongful dismissal. When the terms of employment have been breached, okay? Wrongful dismissal is when the contract of employment is breached. For example, failure to give contractual period of notice, okay? Like for example, if you have to let me go, okay? Like if you have to make me redundant, you have to give me a notice, okay? Like a 2 weeks notice or a 1 month's notice or a 2 months notice, so I can arrange my own opportunities, okay? But if you let me go on the spot without any warning, without any notice, that's called wrongful dismissal, and I can also sue the business for that, okay? Now, if the employer has made an offer of suitable alternative employment and the employee has rejected it, or the employee is of pensionable age or over, or has less than 2 years of continuous employment, or the employee's conduct, the way he behaved, is so severe that the company has no choice but to fire him without notice. In these three cases, guys, he will not be given any compensation by the company, okay? He will not be given any compensation by the company. The people who are being made redundant, they will be given a golden handshake, they will be given some sort of financial benefit. But if an employee or an employer is doing all of these things, okay, then there will be no financial benefit given to the employee, right? If the employer has found a good job for the employee and the employee is not taking it, okay, the employee is 65 or 70 years plus, or if the employee has behaved in an extremely unprofessional method, in these three circumstances, the company is not liable to pay you a single dime, okay? All right, let's move on. Data protection and security. Now, privacy, I think everybody knows what privacy is, right? We all value it, right? So, privacy is basically the freedom to be alone, okay? That's the best way that I would describe it. Privacy is a freedom to be alone, right? We have a few definitions over here. We have the personal data, the data users, people like you and I, and a data subject, like the person on whom the data is being imposed on, I would say, right? Okay, let's move forward. Health and safety. We briefly discussed it just a few minutes ago, that if you're working in a very hazardous environment, in a very challenging and rough and tough environment, so there are laws and there are practices a business should follow through, especially when catering to the employees working in those conditions, right? Now, why are they important? Well, because accidents can happen. There's a high risk of accidents, okay? An employer has legal obligations. They are legally required to do so by law. They are legally required to provide the safety equipment and safety training and regular health checkups, and just making sure that their employees are doing okay, right? And if they do so, very good. If they don't, well then the brand image, their goodwill is going to take a big hit, right? So let's move ahead. The duties of the employers. Okay, now this thing is gonna be a bit lengthy and a bit interesting too. Many of these things I think you guys can figure out on your own. Let's take a look at what are the employers' duties towards their employees, the people they've hired, what the business has to do for them. The business has to make sure that all work practices must be safe and healthy. All the equipment is properly maintained. Okay, there should be safe working practices, right? Like safety training and all that. All the information and training and supervision should be provided. The safety policy should be communicated to all the staff. Employers must carry out risk assessments on a very regular basis, okay? Because danger could be right around the corner, okay? So even though you guys have been in the mining industry or the mining business for many years now, Mother Nature has a way of, getting angry, right? So, you have to keep evaluating, like, if there's a chance of a cave-in or, a mine collapse. So, these guys should be able to predict them and, guide their teams accordingly, okay? Keep carrying out the assessments on a very regular basis, okay? Share that information and to other parties who might be concerned, who might be stakeholders of that, enterprise, okay? And they should have safety policies to address all of the points above, okay? All right. Identify the employees who are especially at risk, right? Like if there's an employee who has asthma, okay, so it's not advisable for him to go work in the mines where it's so hot and humid and you have difficulty breathing, okay? So they must make sure that he has a proper oxygen tank and an oxygen mask. They must make sure that he has an oxygen tank, that he has an oxygen mask, and he can breathe properly, right? Or maybe they can offer him a job at the office, okay, like above the surface, right? So the employees who are at risk, they must be very closely monitored and taken care of, right? And employ health advisors and doctors. They should be available on site in case of any emergency, okay? Then we have some duties of the employees. We discussed all the things that the employer has to do for the employees. Now it's time to discuss all the things the employees has to do for the employers. They include taking reasonable care of themselves and the others, okay? Allow the employer to carry out their duty, okay? Don't get in the way of your boss, okay? Don't get in the way of their boss. Yeah, I mean, some bosses might not be as good, but, just go with the flow in this one, okay? Not interfere intentionally or recklessly with any machinery or equipment, okay? Don't play where you work, okay? And especially if you have dangerous machines, like in the construction business, don't play around, because we see so many injuries, we see so many, accidents happening at these places. Okay, people are losing their thumbs, their fingers, their arms and legs, their eyes. By God, it's horrible. Okay, so be very, very careful. Okay, if there is any danger, if there is any problem, you should communicate to your employer ASAP. Use all the equipment properly, because accidents are expensive, guys. Because if your thumb is cut off or if you have an injury, it's not only painful, but it can also be expensive. All right, because not every country has free healthcare. Okay. And if you have an accident and if you don't enforce these health and safety policies, the time is lost. Okay, because if an employee is incapacitated, that employee cannot work, and that particular machinery might also be damaged in the process, right? So the work might grind to a stop, and you might probably be done for the day. So, and it's quite expensive, as we just discussed. Like the healthcare costs, the machine repairing costs. You have to get the insurance companies involved. It's a big hassle, right? And then you have to pay compensation. Like if the employee takes the business to court, and the judge and jury finds that the business was inadequate in its provision for health and safety training and equipment, then a very hefty compensation has to be paid by the business to the employees. Okay. And if a person is injured, obviously their efficiency is going to drop, and maybe recruiting, like replacing that worker who is incapacitated, recruiting that new person, retraining them, that's going to be expensive and timely as well. Okay, so like it's a lose-lose for both parties. So all this can be avoided if you just have proper safety and health measures in place. Okay, let's move forward. We have some additional points that the employee is not responsible. The employer, the boss is responsible. The business is responsible for creating a safe working environment. Okay, and to provide the safety and health training. Okay, like the employees should know CPR, but who's going to teach them? The management, the business, right? Now, employees can become inattentive or careless in doing work which is monotonous or imposes stress. Like in some of these tasks, you should try to rotate the jobs, right? Because if you're doing the same thing again and again and again, it becomes boring. And if you are bored, you'll be careless. And if you're careless, then you're more prone to accidents. Okay, this point we've already covered. Okay. As we just discussed, that if you're careless, you can cause accidents and cause damage, maybe not only to yourself but also to your fellow employees and to your even damage the machinery in the process, right? Okay. Now, how can we reduce the frequency and severity of the accidents? Many of these points I believe that we have already discussed, so some of these points might be repeating themselves. Let's just take a look. Okay. Yes, we've covered this part. Develop safety consciousness among the staff, health and safety training. Okay. Participation, like ask the employees for their opinion, right? Like, hey, listen, you guys are on the ground, you guys are in the mines, you guys are facing all the dangers. What problems you're facing down there? How do you think we can improve it? Okay, so take their input as well. Don't just sit in the air-conditioned office and imagine everything is fine, right? So sit with your employees, consult with them, and they might be able to provide you with much needed insight. Okay, done. Materials handling should be minimized. Okay, now by materials they mean hazardous materials. Okay, whenever you're dealing with toxic waste or biochemical waste, right, from the hospitals, for example, you have to be very, very careful. Okay, you should probably wear hazmat suit and all that the safety equipment before properly disposing of those stuff. Okay. Good maintenance pays dividends. If your employees are well trained and they're well aware of health and safety, your machinery is up to date, well oiled, well lubricated, well maintained, it's going to pay for itself. Okay, there'll be much fewer accidents and you're going to save a lot of time and money. Okay, and these practices should be focused on the entire industry. Okay, like you can set an example, that business can set an example in terms of health and safety. Like, we've had 0 accidents in the past 5 years. So like that's a big claim, and you have evidence to back up that claim. So this can become an industry standard, right? Okay. Safety inspections should be carried out. Indeed, yes, they should be. And how should the accidents be reported? Like, if you have any accidents, if something bad comes up, how should you report this to the management? All the accidents should be reported on a very timely and immediate basis, and all the details of the accident should be filed and maintained properly. We have to see that which areas of the business, which areas of the environment we are working in, or which employees are more prone to accidents, or are they more dangerous. Okay, so we can either avoid those areas or be extra careful while working over there. Okay, and once, if you have an accident, right? If an employee has an accident, forget the forms, forget the files, forget everything. For God's sake, rush that guy to the hospital. Okay, rush him to the hospital. Everything can come later. Okay, but once that person is out of danger, he's healed, he's got his limbs back together, you should follow up. Okay, the business should follow up. Ask him how it happened, where it happened. Is anyone else injured? Are you feeling okay? Right? And once he's able to communicate properly, then you can file the report and do all the stuff. And don't just randomly place blame without evidence. Okay, like there's going to be a proper investigation, and then we can see that who was to blame. Okay, all right. A risk audit should be carried out. Okay, like when the auditors come in, they should be given complete access to whatever they want, so they themselves can assess the risk areas of the business, right? Okay. Now, there should be, I would say, you see many companies, they have this so-called suggestion box. Okay. So in the suggestion box, the employees can tip anonymously that, hey, listen, I was working in this in this particular sector, and I heard rumbling, and I heard crashing sounds, like maybe there's some the place where I'm working, it might collapse, right? It might collapse. So it's better that people should avoid going in that area. That area should be properly investigated if we are to plan to continue working there, right? Okay. Health and safety policy. We have a statement of principles, detailed instructions on how to use equipment, details of safety procedures, training requirements, compliance with the law, and the senior manager setting a good example. Now, what is all this? Okay. There should be a defined set of rules for every business, especially regarding health and safety. Okay. Now, all businesses are different. Like all businesses will have their different, health and safety policies. The people the businesses in the primary and secondary sectors will usually have more stringent and more regulated safety, health and safety policies in place as compared to the tertiary sector, right? Because the banks and the insurance industry and the audit firms, the law firms, the teaching industry, they do not have a lot of health and safety risks. Okay, like if I'm sitting here teaching you guys, the only equipment I have access to is the camera and my laptop. Okay, now these things cannot injure me as such, right? Like I don't have a lot of how like I don't have a lot of sophisticated machinery, dangerous machinery around me. Okay, I mean, these things can be used dangerously as well, but just for the sake of argument, let's just say that I'm not surrounded by cranes or biohazard materials or sick people in the hospitals, for example, right? So, but yes, hospital is an exception when it comes to health and safety policies in the tertiary sector, right? In the tertiary sector, hospitals are an exception which have a very unique and a very, you can say, thought out health and safety policy, right? So, and senior managers in all of these industries should set a good example by following these rules themselves, right? Whenever any health and safety policy is breached, they should immediately act on it. Okay, they must make sure that that policy is communicated to the staff, and setting priorities for operations, all the activities before undergoing any project or before undergoing any activity, even if it's just routine, the health and safety aspect must not be ignored, right? So that's it for health and safety. Let's move on to consumer protection. Now, consumer protection is a very dominant and a very, you can say, scary aspect of the business world, because there are a lot of laws, there are a lot of agencies who are there to protect the consumers, right? And the businesses exist to serve the consumers. That's what the government believes, and that's what everyone believes, okay? The business exists to serve the customer. The customer is the boss. Okay, and there are laws, there are regulations, there are practices to protect the boss, so to speak. What are they? How are they done? How are they imposed? Let's take a look. First of all, you have a contract, which is a legally binding agreement between two or more parties. Okay, there are some implied terms. Implied means naturally assumed. Okay, implied means naturally assumed. So there are some naturally assumed terms, there are some implied terms in a contract, which is a sale of goods is subject to the following provisions. A sale of goods is subject to the following provisions: the effect of delay in performance, title or the seller's right to sell the goods, description of the goods and quality of the goods, and either they are fit for purpose to be resold. Samplings, description of the goods, quality of the goods, whether they are fit for consumption or for resupply, and sampling. Now, all of these things, guys, all of these things are the implied terms in a contract, okay? Like any sale of goods can be subject to provisions, can be subject to conditions, right? Like you can like you're offering deals, buy one get one free. So this thing is a provision, okay? So, or like if you're offering a 20% discount, that's also a provision, right? The effect of delay in performance, like for example, if you buy something and it's shipped to you at a later date, like if you buy something from Amazon, you buy something from Daraz, you buy something from any website, so the moment you buy it till the moment you receive it, there's a time gap, okay? So the time gap is called the effect of delay in performance, right? The good should be yours to sell. Means it should not be stolen, right? Or it should not be duplicated, okay? If the good is mine, like for example, this wallet is mine, right? I possess this, I own it, so it's my right to sell it, right? So, but if this wallet was not mine, I don't have any right to sell it. That would be illegal, okay? The goods should be well described, that what the goods are, what do they do. They should be of good quality, they should be in good condition so it can be sold, okay? And maybe you can offer some samples as well. Like you go in the supermarkets and they're handing out, small pieces of, cookies and hot dogs and finger foods, right? Like once you taste them, you like them, you can buy the whole box of cookies, right? Okay. And now I have craving for cookies. Thank you very much. Okay, let's move on. If the goods arrive too late, they might be useless. That's why it is always advised, do not buy your groceries online, especially the perishable items. Okay, like if you buy maybe fruit or vegetables online, and if they're delivered to you after 3 days, they're useless, right? Like they've been spoiled most probably. So it's better that you buy them fresh from the market. Okay, go out, socialize, meet some new people, smell the fruit, enjoy it, maybe taste it a little bit, enjoy life. Okay, you cannot sell something that is not yours to sell. We just discussed this, right? All right, let's move forward. If you have agreed to buy certain goods on the basis of description, you expect the goods to correspond to the description. It means what I want to buy, it should be exactly the way it is. Okay, what the business is describing is what the business should sell, right? For example, if I'm buying the cell phone, right? If I'm buying this cell phone and the business claims that it can shoot excellent pictures because it has like 4 cameras on the back of it, right? It can shoot excellent pictures, wide angle pictures, okay? But I open the phone and I see that there's no wide angle and the pictures are a bit blurry. There's a lot of delay in the pictures and the voice. I say that, hey, listen, man, it's not working out, right? Because what you're promising me is not what you're delivering, right? Okay, so if the business cannot deliver on its promise, then the customers can file a case against them. But again, I think we mentioned earlier the fast food industry. Okay, you go to McDonald's and you see the most beautiful burger of your life, right? And what they serve you is not what you see, right? But that's an exception, because the food that you see on the on the screens or on the menu, that's not really food. Okay, like they use special effects and all that to make the food look appetizing, but in reality it's not that eye-catching, I would say. All right, now let's move on to social and demographic trends. Population, the people, you and I, we are creatures of change. We appreciate change, we don't appreciate change, we want to change, we don't want to change, certain things we want to change, certain things we don't want to change, but we have a lot to do with change. Okay, and since the business world is changing, since the economic, the technological, the cultural world is changing, some things we have to adopt with and certain things we might not have to. Okay, but there are certain elements, guys, there are certain elements where there's no escaping and we have to progress accordingly, right? One of those aspects is work, right? And how the employees and employers are working together in this changing environment in order to best benefit themselves and each other. Okay. Now, how can organizations cope with these trends? Because you see, there are many new skills out in the market today, right? We have artificial intelligence, we have cybersecurity, we have freelancing skills, right? So how can the organizations deal with this? How can organizations benefit from this? Who do we want to recruit? Now, that's a question that every company asks itself before employing people. They assess the need of the job. Okay, they assess the nature of the job, the requirements of the job, and that's the basic foundation of the type of person you want, right? That guy should be that person should be of a particular age group, or that person should be able to stand on their feet all day, or that person should have excellent communication skills, they have good Microsoft Office skills. That always comes secondary. The first and foremost is the nature of the job itself. If you can determine the exact nature of the job, finding out the requirements is easy enough. Okay. How many people, how many effective employees, how many trained employees or how many competent employees we can recruit based on where we are currently situated. How many people are school leavers? How many people are of a pension area? Or how many people are leaving the schools, college dropouts? How many people are nearing the pension age, 60, 65? And whether the population is increasing or decreasing. Now, this also plays a vital role in business. Like if you see the example of Japan. Now, Japan has a very aging population, okay? And the population is actually going down. There are literal ghost towns in Japan, okay? So the population is decreasing. There are few young people and there are many, many older people, right? The young people, they are not getting married, they're not having kids. So this is creating a very severe population problem for Japan, okay? And the businesses over there, once Japan was like the leader in world technology, but now due to its declining population, it's facing some severe challenges, okay? What kind of education is being provided in that particular area where your business is operating? Demand from other employers, okay? Like if I'm hiring a person for marketing, for example, okay, and my competitor is also hiring someone for marketing, what are his requirements? What are the requirements of my competitor for a marketing guy or for a marketing girl, right? So you also have to assess like if there's any difference between our needs. Like maybe you need maybe you're not that much focused on marketing, or maybe you're a startup, so you don't have a lot of budget for marketing, so you'll probably hire a beginner or an entry-level marketer, right? But your competitor is like, they rely very heavily on marketing and they can afford senior marketers. So, these guys will say that, we want someone who has 10 years of experience, must have worked in, these types of companies, so on and so forth. Okay. Assess whether some of your demand can be satisfied from somewhere else, like whether you can outsource your your employees, like maybe immigrants, right? Like there are a lot of immigrants in different countries who are very capable, who are very professional at their jobs, okay? And if you can provide some incentives like work visas and that sort of stuff, so people from other countries can come and they can fulfill that job position. Okay. Then we have the family life cycle. Okay. This is a cute concept, I would say. Like it's a bit of a cute concept, like very, very relatable to you guys. Okay. Now, the family life cycle, or the FLC, it's like your age, whether you're married or single, how much income you're making, right? If you have kids or if you don't have kids. All these things are very important to businesses. But why? Like it's your personal life, right? It's your family, it's your personal life. Why are the businesses interested in your personal life? Because there are products, there are services for every person imaginable in this world. There are products for single people, there are products for married people, there are products for young people, there are products for old people, there are products for rich people and middle income earners, low income earners. There are products for kids, there are products for teenagers. Okay, so no matter where you are in life, there will be certain goods and services which will be custom made for your taste and for your needs. Okay, and if a country can assess, or if a business can assess what you need, if a business can assess that the type of population which is of majority in a country, so maybe it can exploit that, right, and sell more to them. It can develop variations of their goods or variations of their services for these particular people, and they can sell to. Now, there are products for everyone, right? So if a business can effectively evaluate that what type of people dominate the demographic, they can modify their products or they can invent a whole new line of products for that specific demographic. And once they do so, they'll be able to sell their products to a wider range of people and thus increase their own profits. Okay, and that is why the business is interested. That is why the businesses all around the world are interested in your family life and your personal status. Okay. Then we have a social class. You know, people from different income backgrounds, people from different cultural backgrounds, religious backgrounds. Okay, and again, there are products and services to cater to each and every one of them. And the marketing, the advertisement is targeted at them specifically. Okay. Okay, let's move on. Cultural trends. Now, in cultural trends, unfortunately, the first thing that we have to consider is the type of discrimination which is being done against people belonging to different cultures. Okay, and this thing is slowly dying down, but it is still prevalent in some businesses or in some sectors, I would say, right? The two types of discrimination being done is overt and indirect. Okay, now overt discrimination is when one particular group of people, they are favored very highly, and one group of people which are favored very lowly. Like for example, if you work in an office and let's say that there are 3 men and maybe like 14 women who work in the office, right? And the boss is like a weird misogynistic type of person. Okay, so he values the girls very highly. Okay, he prefers having, you know, young beautiful ladies in the office. Okay, but the man, he says, you know, like he doesn't care about the man. He's saying like, okay, like you know, just mind your own business, don't talk to me. He's very rude towards the male employees. But for the female employees, he has an open door policy. They can come in anytime they want. They can discuss anything with him. He is always smiling with them. And the complete opposite with the guys. Okay, so this thing is called overt discrimination, or it can be even religious, or it can be even, you know, from different countries. Like if you have, like, let's say, so for the Indian people, he says, you know, no problem, you can come to me anytime, you can talk to me anytime, you know, all the bonuses, benefits, approval of leaves, everything is done in a very smooth manner. And the opposite for the Danish people. Okay, their leaves are rarely approved, their salary is delayed, and the boss is often rude towards them. So this type of discrimination is called overt discrimination. And then we have indirect discrimination. Indirect discrimination is like, you know, when you create such circumstances, you create such a, you know, what do you say, like it's a very suffocating environment, right? A very unprofessional and a very unforgiving environment. So the people are forced to leave. Okay, like for example, if as a boss I don't like someone, okay, I don't like a particular group of people, people from particular cultures or religions or skin color, you know, if I'm of that disposition, what I can do as indirect discrimination, what I can do is I will make things very, very difficult for them. Unnecessarily, right? Completely unnecessarily. Like I'm going to make them do overtime without pay. Okay, I will make certain those particular people, I'm going to give them overtime without pay. Okay, or I'm going to tell them, hey, you guys have to come in and work on the weekends because we are very understaffed. I'm not letting anyone else come, just those people, right? So this sort of discrimination, or whether even in the hiring process, I will say, hey, listen, if you want to work here, if you want to work for my company, you should be at least 25. You should be like, if you want to work for my company, you should be not more than 22 years of age. You should not be more than 22 years of age. Okay. Now, this becomes very difficult for immigrants to come to my company and work, because most of the immigrants, first they have to get a degree. Okay, first they have to get a degree, and it's going to be attested by the authorities. Then they're going to apply for immigration, then they're going to come here. By that time, the average age of immigrants coming into my country is 24 or 25. Okay, so it's not possible for them to get a job at my company, at my business, at the age of 22, right? So this sort of discrimination, even at a hiring level, is called indirect discrimination. Okay, I hope that's clear. Let's move on. The education being provided, okay, like the type of education being provided in different cultural backgrounds, like in Pakistan, we focus very heavily on medicine and engineering and finance, right? In countries like India, they focus very highly on IT and software exports, right? In countries like I would say the US or Southeast Asia, for example, all these Southeast Asian countries, they focus very heavily on agriculture education, right? And that's why they're so good at it. Okay, because the agriculture sector in these particular countries, all this knowledge is passed down from generation to generation. Okay, and it's something which you cannot learn in school or just sitting in a classroom. Okay, it's generational knowledge which comes through practice. So we have to see that the education sector in your country is geared towards which particular directions, right? And thus you can plan your business, and thus you can plan your business activities accordingly. Okay. Now, the fashion sense in the country. Okay, like you'll probably not see many people in USA wearing kimonos, right? Kimonos are usually worn by ladies in Japan. Okay, you will not see American ladies wearing that, right? So there's a fashion difference which the business has to consider. If it tries to sell kimonos in the US or the UK, probably might not do so well, right? Okay. Health conscious. How health conscious are you guys? Well, okay, I know I'm a big guy, right? But the most obese country in the world is US. Okay, so I'm not saying it's a fair assumption, but I would say that people in countries with very high obesity rates, they might not be so health conscious. Whereas people in other countries, maybe like towards Southeast Asia or maybe towards Europe, the demographic over there is quite fit. Okay, like there are not a lot of overweight or obese people in certain countries. Okay, so the more a country is felt on health conscious foods and a health conscious lifestyle, you can sell those products and services better to them as compared to other countries where this epidemic is more prevalent. Okay, and the overall environment. Okay, and the overall environment that you are working in. Okay, the political environment, the economical environment, the cultural environment, and overall, I would say a clean environment. Okay, like if you go to some countries, they have a very limited carbon footprint. Okay, and in some countries, the pollution is through the roof. Like you cannot even see the stars at night. Right. So the type of environment your business is operating in, it should be kept in mind, and making decisions on all of these factors will ensure business success. Okay, so let's keep it till here today. It's a fairly big chapter. We'll finish it in the next session, and I really hope to see you guys, and we'll continue this in our third lecture, and we'll finish this chapter. So let's keep it till here today, right, guys? We've covered a lot of ground, but since some of the chapters in this syllabus are quite big, so they cannot be done in just one video recording, in just one lecture, we have to divide them up. And since this chapter was one of them, so I think it's wise to, not overburden you guys as well. So let's keep it till here. And I'll see you guys in the next class where we are going to finish this chapter. Okay? Take care, guys. Have a good day.